Okay,
Well,
getting started. I really should get this thing up from Arthur. It's the Twitter user, Arthur Dented. Um, Man, I should have put that in the show information. Blech, I'll drop it in chat. But yeah, I'll read this. I'll go like sentence by sentence or paragraph by paragraph. Um, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do for my man. Streaming. Holy shit, let's go. It's the Sons of Tree Air live stream and podcast. You can listen to it either way, of course. You just do that thing where you don't look at your phone, and it's fine. If you look at your phone, you'll see a static image anyway. We make it easy. Chat's already fired up. Welcome, chat, man. Boobs. I'm Dan Cohen. I'm the beast from the east, the Jewish feast, and the second son of Tree Air. I am joined, of course, by Jank Angles, the trader capitalist par excellence. Jank, how we doing?
excellent. I am excellent.
Yeah, anything
Um,
big? Anything big happened today for you?
Listen, it's the Pokemon world. Elon Musk has burnt $44 billion in front of America.
Yes, he has.
The world is great.
The world, it's doing. It could be doing better, but it could be doing a hell of a lot worse.
Yes.
In big news, uh, on that front, before I get down to business, the thing I wanted to really center the start of the show at least with is Daddy Trump might be coming back to Twitter,
Hmm. Oh, that's right. I remember.
and
Was that amusing for you on Twitter? Was he funny?
yeah,
Question mark.
oh, he's hilarious. Nobody Nobody is a bigger shit poster than him. And if he were to say that, he would be right.
Hmm.
He would be entirely correct. It's
Hmm.
kind of amazing.
Interesting.
I'm gonna vote no, but if it's a yes, so be it. It is what it is.
Is it, I don't. You know what? It's not for me to understand.
It's okay.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. The right wingers need this. Bring him back. You know what? Bring him back.
Yeah. We'll bring back the
They
big
need a
dog.
win
They do need a
after
win and a
absolute
winner.
after the absolute punching that they've taken over the midterms.
They didn't really take a shit punch so much as just their win was kind of like it was like a consolation prize win. They certainly this was theirs to lose, and by gum they pulled a Democrats and lost it. But
They really did.
they really did. That said, let's face it, they took back. I think they took back the House. I think they may be hedging on the Senate, and at the very least, there's when you don't have 66 Democrats, the Democrats have functionally lost the Senate because they refuse to lift a finger until there's 66, and even then they'll find some other fucking excuse. So the Republicans de facto always win the Senate, and as it comes to the House, it looks like they've hedged out in the House, making Speaker McCarthy a thing again, which is oh, that spindly little wiener. Oh my god. So there's that, and of course we have Trump announcing that he's gunning for the presidency again, and Elon's just going to hand him free advertising hand over fist. Um, Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why he locked his employees out. But he thinks that they don't follow his freaking Twitter account, the last 13% that's there. The Repubs took my house in the midterms. I'm living in a camper now. I'm very sorry. We will have to start a GoFundMe to get you a house. We just can't mention why you lost it. Otherwise, they'll be like, "That's political. You can't have political fundraising. You're not allowed." That's
that
the noise they'll
is
make
that
anyway.
Trump posting? Is that Trump posting about how he lost his house?
No, that's our dear friend Lee.
Oh,
Good guy Lee. Doing some mad Trump posting right now about how the Republicans stole his shit. That's what they do. They're thieves,
those
kleptomaniacs.
bastards.
They
The worst.
are bastards of the highest caliber. All right. So I promised Arthur Dented. That's a Twitter user involved, so shout out to Arthur. He wrote a little theory screed, sent it off to me. So given that's the case, I said sure, I'll take a look at it. He wanted me to gussy it up or see what I think about it, right? And I'll say this, like Jank knows this. Like you kind of learn this the hard way by just being around me enough. But when I overanalyze something, it's usually because I like it. I kind of write off whatever I just dislike or think is stupid pretty easily. It's a major failing as a philosopher, right? But if I'm not at least curious about something you're saying, I'm not going to overanalyze it. So, I read through it. I did like it, so I'll poke at it, right? I'll take some pokes at it. So the premise is people aren't empathetic. Some say. I have a fundamental issue with this line of reasoning. I always like that. That's a very Marxist. It's a very Marxist way to handle talking, right? We always like in this essay, I will. We always do that. That's us. That's a Marxist thing.
Yeah, an educational statement.
Yeah, but we have this obsession with like I'll see if he does it here. But within like the first three sentences, we give away the ghost of our entire argument, and then we go back and work through why the argument exists. That's like like a social thing we do. So I'm kind of hoping he does it here. All right, so, kind of hoping. But he did say he's not a theory guy, right? So he doesn't write these theory screeds all the time. This is kind of just off the cuff riffing. Um, Okay, so this is an old argument that the elite used to sow division among the working class. All right, so we're asserting that this is false. I do have comments on that, but I'm going to move on for a second. The wealthy capitalists have immensely strong class solidarity, truth, but they obviously want the peons to think that nothing of the sort exists in their ranks. Also, truth. They kind of need that. They can't have you being empathetic and achieve what they want to achieve. That's not how this works. It's not how any of this works. So far, this makes sense. Perverse incentives encourages the rugged individualism of the temporary embarrassed millionaire of America. Okay, capitalism atomizes and destroys the individual. That I actually want to push back on that. Capitalism atomizes and destroys the community. So I think there's just a little bit of kind of like reverse, like on its head logic here, right? That's what Marx would say about Hegel. It's on its head, so we're going to use that here too. This is kind of on its head. Capitalism creates and manufactures the pure monad. Through every point throughout history before this, we have been interdependent and interconnected, and capitalism seeks to make us economically interdependent and interconnected, because those who rise above that are the ownership class. They're not so interconnected anymore. They own the stuff. The rest of you are all interconnected and depend on each other to survive. But at the same time, it tries to isolate you so that even mere survival is a struggle. And given the earlier comments, I think that's more how you're thinking. I think you just articulated that point, like I said, on its head. It destroys community for profit. Truth. See, right there. You're back to being on point. So I think that's just that one sentence is like out of place considering what we're talking about. It's been doing this since the photo-capitalist Vorkon. Oh wow, that's a word. That's a word. It's a Vor. Okay, so this is Dutch word. It's the predecessor to the Dutch East India Company. I'm about to butcher it. Voorkompagnie.
Oh man.
Voorkompagnie. Company, I guess is how you'd say that, because the Dutch have a goofy version of German for their language. That's true. It's been doing this since mercantilism.
Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're going with. Is that a problem?
No, please continue.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your permission, as always, and I love you.
You and your goofy German.
Yeah, even in my stupid German. My Dutch. Dutch is a terrible language. I'm just going to say it. I don't like it. That's why so many feel depressed, lost, as well as frightened. Yeah, so since mercantilism, this is becoming more and more of a problem, right? When mercantilism is eradicated in favor of capitalism, or we could also say it takes its final form in capitalism. Capitalism is the inheritor of mercantilism. we have alienation, and alienation brings, among other things, depression, a sense of being aimless and lost, as well as being frightened of the other. They're all contingent, right? Hobbes, this is interesting. Hobbes produced the war of all against all as his big theory, right? We're all, if we don't have a benevolent dictator to drive a sense of community, or even a non-benevolent dictator, frankly. If we just don't have a dictator, in his time it was the king, but in our time it would be most likely the dictator, unless Peter Thiel gets his way. Um, we need that dictator to enforce a sense of community. In ancient Egypt, that's what the priest caste served to do, and the pharaoh, right? If we move to China, that's what the emperor and the imperial court serves to do. Japan operates the same way. The Russian monarchy. You take a look at the fucking Holy Roman Empire, the sultans of the Middle East, and so on, right? Even down to the tribal chieftains all over the world for indigenous folks and the more arisen warlords, right? When there's a warlord isn't very good in a traditional sense. It's a machine, he produces a machinery of violence around him. But the warlord gives us a sense of community, a sense of belonging, right? And the alternative to that, the Lockean alternative to that, is a sense of isolation and alienation. Hobbes was not right about his solution to the problem of alienation, but he damn sure understood what capitalism was going to produce. It was going to produce alienation. Okay, let's see. I'm going to take some comments from chat real quick. I fundamentally have a problem with my penis hoarding. Nice. My cousin's uncle was a super rich guy, lived in Myrtle Beach. We stayed with him once during vacation. Dude had a huge house on a private golf course. He told me the way to get rich was surround yourself with rich people and act like you belong. To some extent, that's true because then they'll hand you money, right? They have a class solidarity. They understand class interest, and other people, like poorer people, don't. And that's called it's called false consciousness, right? We believe the bullshit. They don't believe the bullshit. The Dutch boys like to stick their fingers in dikes. Ha! I read Hobbes all the time, Calvin and Hobbes. I believe it's Mr. Thomas Hobbes. His work, The Leviathan, right? He talks about the war of all against all. Okay, so far, fundamentally speaking, nothing. This is good. People are treated as expendable chattel, and the system has made many, many modifications to keep the working class in check this way. Yeah, actually, one of the big innovations in like when you transition from mercantilism to capitalism is that you go from out and out slavery, which is a direct class antagonism, to the laundered class antagonism of worker and wage slave. It's harder to see the difference because, in theory, you can save up enough money to purchase capital and rise up. That's the offer, right? That's the false kind of choice that you get. You can stick to being a worker and everything will be fine, or you can try to move up to being an owner, and it's just a different mode of existence. It's an alternate. You've heard this concept before. It's separate but equal. Which, how's that working out? Elon has decided to take the place that we all know and love to shitpost and absolutely
if it's
run
any
the program.
consolation, it is still separate in many ways.
It is still separate in many ways. That's very true. Okay, but yeah, this is entirely correct. Human beings are reduced to their labor power. They are a natural resource that produces labor. Okay, so with that, the the original adopters of that line of reasoning, especially as we move from the political system of monarchy and the economic system of mercantilism over to liberal democracy and to capitalism as we get these successor forms of existence. This line that people aren't empathetic, that's relatively speaking, you didn't see that then. The premise of the Lockean argument was that everybody will be empathetic and understand they have their own interests and that they have other people's interests and they have to negotiate. Everything is reduced to a contract negotiation under John Locke. That's utilitarianism. You're going to negotiate your own interests and you're going to negotiate against those of others. John Locke's system, in a certain sense, feels like a perpetual system of lose-lose. And this is why liberal democracy is proposed as the ideal form of government with capitalism. That's kind of the early pitch to those early capitalists, right? If we switch to democracy, if we have everybody compete in this marketplace, they will actually not compete, but they'll co-op. So the organizations they build will compete, but they will do so cooperatively. The worker will cooperate with the owner will cooperate with the worker, and that'll lead to the best possible outcomes, right? Maybe one company goes under, but through that transaction, those people are then filtered out into places where they also belong, and they can build it up anew. Anybody seeing a problem with that, right? Is anybody seeing a problem with that? I am. You're locked in a fucking permanent competition. That competition and that competitive attitude is going to bleed into everything, and it produces alienation, the feeling of depression, not belonging. Everybody's out to get you. It breeds it. John Locke is kind of a fucking idiot, an intentional idiot. Okay, that's my big. You can quote me on that. John Locke is kind of a fucking moron. And this idea, I'll say this too, right? As a successor to liberal democracy, the communists and the fascists are collectivist in nature, meaning we don't see any of this shit. We have rejected it prima facie. Interestingly, the anarchists are like, that's the part that's good. Locke was wrong that liberal democracy and capitalism are the solutions, but his general idea of permanent contract negotiation are the best way to move forward. This is why I'm not an anarchist. That's wrong. Even the fascist knows that's wrong. That's not how things work. You can't negotiate every single facet of your life. You try to do so in the microcosm of Twitter, where you're negotiating against everybody in a competitive space for attention, to reach out and try to find cooperation, as we all have in our very meager ways. And you're trying to compete against other people. God knows we all love dunking on losers, right? Somebody comes to busting your buddy, you go bust their balls right back. How's it working out for everybody? It sucks. So the anarchist is wrong, right? And the anarchist would say, like, well, it's still a hierarchy. It's still, we've got all these rich people involved in the system, blah, blah, blah. It's the system around it is bad. It's not the idea that's bad. No, the idea is bad. The idea is just bad. It is what it is. I hate to burst their bubble, but the idea sucks. I'm sorry. Anything to add to all that, Jenk, or do you want me to move on?
No, that checks out. Very bold of you to say anarchists' ideas are bad and wrong.
Anarchists are operating on a false premise in that regard. I would not pick. I'll say this: if I had to pick between collectivist fascism or individualist anarchism, if I couldn't be a commie, I would obviously pick anarchism. It's clearly better than fascism. It's just the fascists happen to agree with us, even if they never say it.
Your choice between a turd sandwich and
anarchism
sandwich are wonderful.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right. I think that's a very easy choice. That's where you go next. And that's why there's some overlap between the two, because we both agree that the hierarchy of fascism, even if they're, I'll say this: the fascists are also right about the nature of the state as a political entity, and for the most part, right, it is a unit of powered exercise based on class. They're very happy with that. Like when they figured that out, they were giddy. When Lenin figured that out, he tried to subordinate the state, right? And in Lenin's case, that kind of backfired, because he's trying to go. He's not trying to eradicate the political system that exists. He's trying to subordinate it. So their version of democracy it was shitty, right? We don't have to pretend to be hyper tankies and pretend everything the Soviets did was good. Clearly, they're not a country anymore, so they couldn't do everything perfectly because they could not counter the things that were not operating in their favor. The counterpoint is, between the two, they certainly outlasted fascist governments, didn't they? They beat out Franco.
Nope.
They beat out Hitler. They beat out Italy. They beat out Imperial Japan. So, as far as the scoreboard goes, collectivism is the way to go. China's still chugging along just fine. But the idea that the political entity is higher up in order, or that it needs to be taken to solidify the economic, well, if you have here's the problem with that logic, right? What do capitalists have? They have all the economic power and they launder it through political power. What happens if the Communist Party of a country does that? They have all the economic power and then they launder it through the political system. You get a very similar result because you're doing the same goddamn thing.
Right.
Yeah, so I digress. Those are a bunch of tangents that have been just from that one paragraph. Good job, Arthur. Good for you, making me think, making me work it, right? Making me work the brain muscles I haven't worked for a while. All right, moving on to paragraph 2. All this is to say, human beings are naturally empathetic. Art. I can't pin down a definition, but to create something that moves you, that says something that inspires, etc. You did. You did. That's Hegel, right? Art for its own sake. That's just Hegel. You're fine. You're nothing out of the wheelhouse, my comrade. In the hopes that sharing it might do the same to others, art is a beautiful method of communicating ideas. Very true. Ambiguous expression allows for multiple interpretations and perspectives, and there's an and missing. See, this is how fucking nitpicky I am. And has empathy baked into the cake. Because I would be like, well, we should write all this. So not only, well, as far as that goes, what's fascinating is I kind of disagree with your interpretation there. Art, to me, is inherently reactionary. I don't, because you have, I mean, it's at the most basic level of reactionary thought, but you have to react to art. Right? You have to react to it. You're operating on an emotional level, so you have to react to art. So it's an inherently reactionary thing. But, you know, if you're a fan of Hegel, at least, Hegel would tell you not all reactionary things are inherently bad, right? When you see a beautiful piece of art that moves you, or you see a piece of art that inspires you to, I don't know, join the Communist Party, those are good things, right? If a piece of art inspires you to go from a liberal to an anarchist, that's a good thing. It's all fine. So nothing to worry about there. Okay, gonna take some more comments from the chat real quick. My solution to alienation is to simply not get abducted. That's one way to do it, I suppose. Juniper Desk, got no idea what I walked into, but baby, I am here for it. Utilitarian is bullshit. Juniper, great to have you this evening, and it is bullshit. Also, if you watch on YouTube, that's where the other commenters are, so you can get in the big discussion and even respond to each other, and I will read it. And if I have to, I'll read it in two different voices. It'll be sassy. I've never had to do that yet, but you could. John Locke,
It'll
more like
be sassy.
I will be sassy. John Locke, more like John Lockjaw. He was a mumbled mouth idiot. Kind of. Agree. Agree on your assessment of Locke as well. Juniper Ness, that's not how I use Twitter at all. Fair enough. It is how I use Twitter. And I use it as a naked advertising mechanism that's free because I'm lazy. I'm very cheap. This is anti-media. We don't fuck around with media. What about anarcho-collectivism like democratic confederalism or libertarian municipalism? I think I think that if the utopian dream of Marxist communism was to come through, it would look a lot like that. I think aiming to that first is laughable. I use Twitter as free advertising as well. Good for you. See, you're using it right. You're using it right. As far as, here's the thing. That we do. We really are just anti-media fucking fiends, and it's great. Media sucks. Putting that one down is one of my great takeaways. Like when I die, I want that on my tombstone. Man, media sucks.
And media does suck.
I want to say something that if you're a dogmatic tanky, what's the most basic disagreement between anarchists and communists in your opinion? Individualism versus collectivism. I'm going to get back to Billy Carter's point. But the great disagreement is collectivism versus individualism, because anarchists still want to hold on to the individual par excellence. Communists, communists want to see that eroded. The anarcho-communist, in its current definition, as proposed by thinkers not limited to but including Kropotkin, in my opinion, is kind of a dog shit wishy-washy way to go about things. Fuck yes, messaging sucks. Yeah, that's it. I mean, unfortunately, like the minute you put out like a stream, like you're messaging, right? So like we kind of advertise that we really only want to have the bare bones minimum of media. We're using a media medium, right? Again, inherently reactionary, but thinkers like Bakunin's a different beast. Um, Bakunin's a different beast. I share Marx's opinion on Bakunin. Um, because I read Marx first. And I rather thought he was funny in how he described Bakunin. I'll get into that maybe later. I want to get through this piece too. But yeah, between anarchists and communists, it's the individual uber alles, the monad, or the collective. That's the big disagreement. And because we are Americans, anarchism is more appealing than communism, I think, because it's easier to transition from being a liberal to an anarchist than it is from a liberal to a communist. You have to gain a desire for the collective. You want some of what is pitched as free will eroded away, right? You have to have a fundamental, essentially, if you think long and hard enough about it, you're going to have a fundamental problem with free will as the liberals portend free will exists. You certainly have a problem with free will as the theocrats, right? We all do. That's why we're all, at the very least, liberals, right? Even the more liberal conservatives have a problem with the way the theocrats produce free will as an idea. But I have done umpteen hours on free will to the great annoyance of my co-host, Jenk.
Yes.
Yes. So uh, you kind of
Yes.
you have a beef with the way we conceive of free will, um, and how that kind of funnels out is the communists are more interested in the collective whole, hence the collectivist nature, right? When they call us the filthy collectivists, they're not wrong. I'm talking Murray Bookchin, who is Bakunin, or whoever you just said. Oh, I thought you were making fun of Bakunin. Bakunin was an anarchist thinker from the olden days,
Once
and
upon the
what?
way back.
Yeah, I forget his signature work off the top of my head because I wasn't too interested in going through it. I read some of his letters, and I was just not. The man was not for me. Um, but that's it. So this idea of we'll use the term of democratic confederalism or libertarian municipalism, whichever you feel most comfortable with, Mr. Carter. And as far as that goes, this is kind of the hard sometimes to grasp about Marxism. I think the proper, in my opinion, right? In my opinion, the proper Marxist thought, and there's a variety, obviously, but this is all my years doing this. I would not expect communism to be the end. I would think communism is the beginning of the end. So what I mean by that is that I fully expect there to be some sort of revolution against the revolution, right? Once the revolution is the conservative order, the existing social order, I think it will be necessary to revolt against that because of the contradictions that will be present. I don't know what those look like. We don't even live there. We haven't lived there long enough for that system to live out its life. But I think whatever's
Yeah.
beyond that looks something like libertarian municipalism or something more community driven. Um, but that's just all. Again, I'm really out in the weeds speculating with that one. You know, yeah, that's what I think. That's where I think it goes next, right? The idea once we have this distribution, this equal distribution of resource and these trade networks set up, the idea that the central authority needs to be as powerful as it is, I think, does erode away, right? I'm not in, you can call me a Marxist-Leninist here, if you will, because I certainly don't see that as being untrue, but I think that has to, I think instead of it being a natural erosion effect like Lenin promised and was kind of like hoodwinking people with, if we're going to be dead ass honest, or maybe he's talking in such an abstract time scale, right? Once the Soviets have won over the whole world has been socialized. Homo economicus is a dead thing. It's a curio in the museum. We represent the rituals thereof through games or what have you, and it's just it's dead and gone. At that point, the state can erode away. Maybe he's just talking in a grander time scale than me. I think he was hoodwinking people, but I think he just tried to hoodwink the anarchists, which I think was wrong. I think he should have been honest about it. Like, this is the socialist worker state. This is what we need. We need you to get in line. I don't think the outcome would have been different. I think it would have been violent, but I think he should have been honest about it. The collective needs it to be arranged in this way. We're not going to get anywhere by trying to go further than that. We have we just came out of a world fucking war, people. We need to get our legs under us, and if you're not down with that, that's a problem because we're kind of not you're in a revolutionary state. You're not going to let the alternative thought win, which in some ways they did, right? And unfortunately, one of those that urge to lie uh, led to a lot of violence that was unnecessary. And I think ethically speaking, it should have been presented up front that this is the exchange. Um, so there you go. Hot take. Lenin was a liar on some things, like we all are. Um, mostly right though. Again, still love me some Lenin. All right, getting back to the work that Arthur did. Wow, this is like taking the whole episode. This is cool. Like where it goes. So, and I reject that. I think human. Okay. So, in regards to this idea that everything is, um, people aren't naturally empathetic, able to pick up on emotion expressed through art or expressed in text or expressed face to face. So not only do I reject the argument on its face, in this case, I would say that the argument refers back to that, given the rest of the paragraph, because I'm kind of speed reading it. I would just say the anti-empathy argument on its face, right? That's probably how I'd change that. I think the human minds are collaborative and exceptional because of our ability to go beyond the selfish ego, solipsistic echo chamber, and progress into a society that shares and grows. Agree. I think that is a possibility humans have. I might
I
agree.
think it's one of the fundamental things of being human.
Yeah,
I don't think that we're optimized for it. I don't think that we do it as well as we could, but it is definitely the reason why we are the way that we are.
I think you're right on that. That's part of being Homo economicus, though, right? That's part of it. You have to be able to reject empathy in favor of profit. That's the evolutionary failing that every human today is unfortunately confronted with to degrees. We certainly all have it on the show. You all have it in the chat, and we all know the monsters who have it to a degree where they enjoy it, right? The sickness. So, in that regards, just like I said, minor thing. Capitalism is, of course, quite antithetical to creativity and true progress. I agree. And it's funny because, like, in the initial burst, I don't think it has anything different. I don't think the initial bursts of creativity under capitalism are any different than they were any other time or would be any time in the future. I think this is, of course, quite antithetical to creativity and true progress. Whoa. I agree. Whoa.
Things are happening.
It's funny because, like, in the initial burst, I don't think it has anything different. I don't think the initial burst of mute the show. Mute the show. Any time in the future. I think it was.
Ooh.
If you wanted to jump in, mute the show.
Wow.
Juniper, mute the show. Mute the show. Mute the show.
Ooh.
If you wanted to jump in, mute the show. All right, I'm just going to put you on mute temporarily. If you want to talk, throw it in chat. But I got to have you mute the show when you do that. Just did some research, and holy shit. Those two threw some serious shade at each other. According to Marx, Bakunin was a man devoid of all theoretical knowledge and was in his element as an intriger. While Bakunin believed that the instinct of liberty is lacking in him, he remains head to foot an authoritarian. This is like when people will call in the Stern and not turn off the radio. Yeah, it's from a good place. I don't think they realized they clicked it.
Yeah.
That's all. I don't think Juniper realized she clicked it. Yeah, he also describes Bakunin as a fat, corpulent thing. And he wishes well for the 15-year-old he has forced himself upon in marriage. That's a fun Marx quote. He called him a fat pedo. So, if the problem is when you throw around your fucking authoritarian after somebody calls you a fat pedo, it doesn't ring as true, does it? Even if maybe it is true, right? Maybe Marx somewhere his idea of liberty does come from an authoritative spot. But at the same time, man, in 1848 or whatever, Marx says to Engels, like, oh, have you seen Bakunin recently? He's fatter than ever. And
oh, he's muted you. He can't hear you. Hey, real quickly.
Yeah, unmute.
You've got a yep.
Okay, you got the show off now. I said unmute, damn it.
Sorry, there we go. We should have you unmuted now. By all means, go.
I'm not showing that you have a mic though. Wait, why is it still showing muted? What the shit?
I've definitely heard.
Yeah, I can't though. Unmute
You
somebody.
broke it.
I got no idea
No.
what you guys are talking about.
Oh, we're going. So Arthur Dented wrote a thing and asked me to read it on the show, and that's what we're talking about. I'm just going through the theory work. Remember, I'm the unfun
Oh,
show. Chris runs
fantastic.
the fun
Okay,
show.
carry on.
Yeah. But you feel free to weigh in. One of the gang. I like it when you're on, Chris's show. So yeah, you're more than welcome here. I threw it out there for a reason. This is cool. We haven't had like a guest in a long ass time, so I apologize. My manners are out of whack.
No, I apologize because I'm only just learning Discord. I am an old, so bear with me.
You're good. Don't worry about that. All right. So, it's referring to capitalism, divisions alone exploding the many to enrich the few is proof enough of this fact. Yeah, there again, it's not the initial burst of creativity, right? Somebody had to make the cotton gin, somebody had to make the wheel, etc. It's what happens after the fact that it is co-opted for this purpose as a profit. Societies are stronger with greater diversity of thought and culture. This is a fact. I think that's true, but I don't think those are. I don't think those are competing thoughts. I think capitalism is a rich diversity of thought and culture because it absorbs all thoughts and cultures. It just eats them up. Yum 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 yum. It's what it does with those things. Where else in human history can you imagine that within like 20 minutes you could theoretically eat sushi, go for a fucking Thai bubble tea, see an artistic.
No, but it suppresses them.
You hold right. Hold on that. Like you could go and like see an African art performance, and then relax yourself to just go back to your house and turn on like the works of Bach. Right? We can't do that before this. But what are we doing? As you said, it suppresses them. Right? Why does it suppress them though? I don't think you're wrong, Juniper. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think it does suppress those things. Even though you can do those things, what does it do then?
But that's fantastic for the people that can do that, but not everyone can fucking do that.
That's the other catch, isn't it? Not everybody can participate in that market. Everything's for profit and not everybody can participate in it. It limits it in those regards. It's not that it doesn't have the diversity of these things. I can order umpteen number of copies of the Communist Manifesto.
Okay, I'm experiencing significant lag. Let me try to recombobulate.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and continue addressing that thought, though, right? So it's not that I can't experience the diversity of thought. I can go to Amazon right now and pick up a work of the anarcho-capitalist Nozick. I can pick up a piece of Bakunin. I can go get myself some Sun Tzu. I can go get myself the Little Red Book. I can get a great diversity of thought. That's only 4 books. Shit, look how many books there are. You can't even think of all the books. You couldn't think of all the books before, but you definitely can't think of them now. Now it feels like you can't think of all the books. So many. 7 billion humans thinking. But
you would need someone to tell you that you should read the fucking book.
Right.
Like there's no like Red Army Oprah. Right.
That would be amazing.
Well, that would be amazing, but that's not what we've got, except for little things like this here.
And you get a uniform, and you get a uniform, and here's a directive of the Workers' Party. Look, I'm swinging that one. I'm in theory mode, man. Thank you for chuckling, though. Yeah, no, I don't disagree. It's just again the idea that it does not have the diversity of thought. I can dig through every ancient culture this planet has remembered, if you will, right? I can look up information on African tribes here in just 4 seconds if I really want to. I could never experience that sitting in where I am in Western Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean,
but
okay, like you're saying, like diversity of thought. Like, let's look at the major Egyptian like thing. Like I don't want to call it a cult. Like I don't want to call anybody's religion a cult.
Sure.
Not from the outset. But here's the thing.
Fair.
Like because I think they're all cults and I recognize that that's one of my prejudices. So I try to set that aside. Anyway, So, Nefertiti and the dude she was married to, like, they tried to usher in this whole, like, monotheistic thing. They were trying to be dope as fuck. What was his name? Like Akhenaten.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he had a boyfriend, but that's not relevant to this story. The point is they were trying to bring this whole thing in to be like, oh yeah, the sun god, like, and all the other gods, like, they all exist, but the sun god, like, he's the one god. Sun god, one god. Got it? Okay. And he's gonna like hold out like little onk sniffers to people like when he's beaming down upon them in our artwork. And it's all gonna be dope. They pioneered a little more realistic look in some of their art. But anyway, what happened was the people that liked the religion the way it was, once she and her husband died, they're like, oh, fuck those people. They chiseled them off of stone.
Yeah.
Like they chiseled them off and been like, nope, that shit never happened here. So anyway, check out Tutankhamun. Woo woo.
Yeah, that sounds entirely in line.
And the thing is, like, that's it's not so far from, what we're all experiencing right now.
No,
Just saying.
we do like to repeat ourselves as a species. We love to repeat ourselves.
We're good at it too.
We are very good at it. Not to brag.
The whole time is a flat circle thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Who's rolling in now? Oh my God, Michael Jordan Peterson. Woo! Yeah, but the point, conceptually speaking, the point is not so much that we tend to think of it as this erosion because like we all live, we live in American fucking homogeneous culture. But even within American homogeneous culture, there's a large diversity of just regional variance on thought and how we behave, right?
Well, 100%, but most people don't get to experience the diversity.
Agreed.
Like that one of the things that I would recommend to anybody is drive cross country at least once in your life. Don't fly. I'm interested in what the train experience is like, to be real. But like at least once. If you're an American, go from coast to coast. Like, see what's there because it's astounding in a very real sense. It is astounding.
I think travel in general does that sort of thing.
No, but like, for instance, I had no idea how much nothing there was.
Oh, yeah.
You'd be surprised how much stuff's in that nothing.
Well, right, but I mean, you don't know if you don't stop in the nothing and like poke around. But like, for real, like if you're driving, there are so many hours of nothing. And if you grow up in a community that's very densely populated, you don't know what that's like. You don't know what it's like to have to like drive an hour to get to the good grocery store.
No, well, not anymore. I moved closer to the good one.
All right, but what I'm saying is, like, if you don't, like, if you live in the densely populated areas, particularly on the coasts, like, you don't even know what that's like. You can't conceive of it because it's so far from your experience. But like, yeah. So if you're and I don't even want to say an East Coast elite because there are plenty of people that live on the East Coast that are not fucking elite, let me tell you. But they don't get things like that. But meanwhile, people that like have only existed in rural areas don't understand what it's like being someplace that's more densely populated. And that's I think that's a big problem. You know, if you want to talk politics, fine, but I think that's a big problem just for people's understanding of the fucking world. Like they can't. It has never occurred to most people that other people live very different lives.
No, and that's some of the conflict of having a federal system like we do. That's some of the inherent conflict in it.
I see that as part of the beauty of what could be, because with the whole federal system, I mean, not for nothing, but for most of my life, like I could move from state to state, and I knew that my rights would be more or less respected the same.
That is one of the joys of it. That is one of the low-key joys of a federal system.
When it works like that, but what I see happening is a push for a more loose federation.
Right. Yeah.
And the rights that are guaranteed to all of us under the federation are under attack.
That's also very true. It's partially why I don't like now, and it's partially why I don't like why I don't care for the anarchist model of going straight from this into that, because then, like, what's the functional difference of going back to the states' right world?
I think what if anarchists are like, take what we got and, you know, bust it down, and I think that those people assume a more generous interpretation of what we all conceive of as rights, because those are the circles that they run in.
Correct.
You know, like, well, obviously my life is as important as someone else's.
Yeah, that's not obvious to them, though, is always the problem.
Right! But they don't get that because they've never run into somebody that's like, no, I have more rights than you. They can't. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking, I mean, in my experience, most people that just like come out and call themselves anarchists are like trustafarians. You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna impugn them again. I disagree with them. I'm not gonna impugn them like that. But you can.
No,
and I'm okay with it being on the show. But just personally,
no, I am fully speaking from my experience. I'm not saying all people that espouse this belief system. I'm saying in my experience, when I have met people that say, yes, I am an anarchist, they are funded by sources that you and me and Joe Bag of Donuts do not have.
Yeah, we don't get them.
Right. So they're free to say whatever, and it doesn't impact their job prospects or their income.
No.
And you know, if they want to change their mind in 5 or 10 years and like go be a venture capitalist, then they get to go do that, and that's 100%. That's great for them. If I were truly convinced that my ideals were right, I wouldn't be mad about any of the stepping stones. You know, like, nepotism, fuck it. Like, I'm God's son, so I get to get up there. Like, I mean, if you truly believe that.
Yeah.
You know, if you really think your belief system is that much better than everybody else's, well, then good for you. Of course, you should be shouting the loudest. But the reality is, like, most of these people are just in it for the fucking grift, or they hear something that sounds good and they say it and it doesn't have any impact on their real life. Because like grandmom's money is gonna come through. um it's wild, man. It's fucking wild. um
I'm not disagreeing. Um, but as far as getting through Arthur's work, giving him his fair shot tonight, I do want to get moving along.
oh
So
shit, I'm sorry.
you're good. You're good. If I didn't want it, I wouldn't have done it here. Didn't expect it is different than didn't want it. Just, run a different again. It's from running a different kind of space. All right, so back to Arthur's original point. Class analysis is built around understanding the distribution of labor, violence, and resources. Yeah, that's right. This means empathy is built into the Marxist perspective, sociopathy into the capitalist one. I think it helps. I think it helps build empathy if you look at things through those relations. That might be a perspective thing. I'm more cold about it. Look at any example you choose. Part of why I fight for my belief is because I understand the mental toll, the emotional labor that capitalism inflicts on us all, beyond the physical and economic exploitation, anguish of the people who don't have what they need. At the most basic fundamental level, the resources we have on Earth created what we have today and are more than enough to create what we need. All this is true. Slight quibble over need. The Marxist doesn't care about needs or wants. We don't see a difference. We don't tend to. You have just as much a need for your trinkets as you do for the food in your belly. That's the kind of the very reductive form. Again, I say reductive because you'll be like, "What? Fucking Dan Cohen says we should all have golden toilets or some shit." Like, no, but you need a toilet, right? You need a toilet. You need something to do all day. You need a hobby. If you don't have a hobby, you get fucking weird. Hence why I'm the way I am, right? It is capitalism that disassociates from this fact and ravages the planet in its quest for infinite growth. Everybody's got to have a religion, man. Everybody does, even the atheists. This is physically impossible, and the way you can get others to be on board is to miseducate them and isolate them so that they feel they have no choice but to participate in the destruction. Yeah, it's called an econ department, isn't it? Right? Among other things, among many other things, it's called an econ department. That's all they do. They just practice a religion, and then they get grant money for it. All right, final paragraph here. Some people have other answers for their emotional ills, their mental poverty, drugs, God, art, but it's quite clear that capitalism is the diagnosis to so many of society's sicknesses, be they physical or mental. I'll say this, you would like Deleuze and Guattari. You would really like that pair of anarchists. I enjoy them. I think they're right on this. Full stop. You have a similar opinion at base. The way forward, with a livable, equitable planet for all, which should really be baseline existence, not the ultimate goal of the Marxist revolution. Well, no, the ultimate goal is to get the bourgeoisie out of there, you know what I'm saying? Redistribute that property, in which people take care of one another exists outside the bounds of capitalism. Lean a little more towards anarchism there, but again, I'm not fundamentally opposed to anarchism. I just, not for me.
Mic check.
Mic check. We're
Mic
almost.
check.
I will breeze through this next part. That way we are good. Again, examine any example you choose. The solution would be to disregard money and distribute resources anew. Getting brazen. I'm liking it. I see my own empathy for the state of the world reflected in so many others in so many different ways. Good. It's good to see yourself in other people. It helps you empathize with them. That and a fundamental love for the planet that gave me life is how I know that old lie that people lack empathy is just another tool of the capitalist class. I think they're born with empathy for the most part, unless they are genuine sociopaths. I even think the psychopath is empathy, but the sociopath is born without it, right? It's a physical, it is their disability. But I think people can learn sociopathy. I think Deleuze and Guattari here, right, their schizoanalysis. Why not sociopathy analysis too? Why not understand the world like that? Empathy helped me break the bonds of capital and free my mind, and I'm a better person in all ways for it. No, Arthur, I like your piece overall. Like I said, there are just a couple of things, right? Couple
Is
of
that
notes.
Arthur Denton?
Yeah, it's from Arthur Denton.
Hell yeah.
You guys can read it because you are part of the core show and you are able to see that. I might flip this over to the Patreon too and post that letters from the readers and just let that be an unlocked post. 'Cause I
Hell yeah.
rather like it.
Letters from the editors.
Yeah, letters from the editors. But I would snip that, of course, because there's PII in there, and not based to dish out PII. Yeah.
Damn, I think you're dead on it with learned sociopathy, man. Place I just left, man, they're training it, man. Like, if you want to move up in some shit like this, you're basically just learning how to fuck somebody over and be cool about it. The reasons that it was okay that you did that.
Yeah.
Go out here, take me a little lunch break, kick it with y'all.
Yeah, it's a fascinating problem. We got a little bit of time. I'll speak to that for a moment. If you guys don't mind, because we really, Arthur is based as F. You get to post with him too. That's our boy Arthur Dented. So you're posting with that. And again, I rather like it. What I would like to do is sit down and just discuss those issues in fine detail one to one. But that's because I have my own mental illness, right?
I don't know why everybody's laughing.
Yeah.
The joke.
No, sincerely, like, I mean, I have a serious and persistent mental illness. But like it hasn't stopped me from doing what I need to do in the world. And like maybe your buddy there was just telling the truth.
That's just
and everybody laughed. Like that's fucked up.
Like, I think like that's more of a
that's an in
if
joke.
I'm not me if I'm wrong, I believe Dan was referencing just the fact that we still get drawn into a lot like a not really a debate situation, but just a situation where we're like, there's a running debate among us and I guess the left as a whole or whatever, like about whether or not we should be even talking about shit anymore. About whether or not we ain't just subdividing down into smaller and smaller categories.
We should be talking about that shit.
Well, hold on.
Give me part of it is me being like, oh yeah, I'm fucking batshit crazy. I mean, like I take drugs for that, but and no shit, I also treat people for the same kind of shit. Well, no, I don't.
Well, you got an interesting lens to look at it through. I forget that we bring it up because you kind of seen it from the other side.
I don't have psychosis, and that's what my current batch is.
I just wouldn't overthink my statement because that's just an in joke. We always joke about me having an obsession disorder.
Right.
That's all that is.
No, but here's the thing. Like if you actually like had diagnosable criteria for that, I'd be like, fuck yeah, like tell us what that's like.
No, mine's just depression. That's all my actual any kind of illness is.
That's all.
Yeah.
Motherfucker, I have spent like months in a chair not moving. Like that's all. Like
I don't know what it is to me because like you said, you spent months in a chair not moving. I'm just depressed.
Well, I mean, so not for nothing, but like maybe your situation mentally is caused by like fucking capitalism.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because that happens too. That's not that is not to be ignored. Like sometimes it's just like if you've ever seen the movie Pump Up the Volume. And Christian Slater tells the girl, like, you're not fucked up. You're having a normal reaction to a fucked up situation. And that is more true now than it has ever been. Ever.
For sure.
At least in my lifetime. I mean, I'm not saying like historically. Maybe people in 1544 like had the same shit going on as us, but I don't think so.
Yeah, they said it in different ways. It expresses itself different culturally.
Well, your feudal lord or your king had more of a stake in your well-being than your capitalist overlord does, right? that's part of the upgrade of capitalism from the old ways of doing things. Is that
Well, for the
I don't know,
capitalist.
man. Like if Elon Musk like getting his panties in a twist, like, and he tweets something wrong, and then somebody else tweets something wrong, and that fucks with my 403b, like
yeah,
that's upsetting. Like, and what's particularly upsetting to me is not that it, oh, it'll fuck with my retirement. What big fucking deal? One person, but like, could it fuck with a generation's retirement? Like,
that'd be
could
like
it?
that'd
Like,
be like the shit.
how
That'd be like the
many?
shit.
How
Remember when?
many people that were just getting ready to retire now gotta like go back to work like for a Walmart greeter for like another 6 or 12 months? Like, can you imagine a worse version of hell?
Like that's like that shit when they privatized it, like Soviet Union collapsed, they privatized all that shit. That's like that shit.
The privatization thing, like, no, we
That's like
know
that
how
shit.
this
Yeah.
goes.
What did they
Well,
call it? The despair.
I mean, keep in mind the Soviets already had a lot of privatization in their economy. That's a myth that they were entirely collectivized. That was part of what led to their internal
I know
contradictions and
this.
downfall.
I had a Russian roommate for a long time. Like, she's still a good friend of mine. She was married to Matt Taibbi, actually, for a
Oh
brief
shit,
moment.
that's crazy.
We didn't record that part, but anyway,
Okay.
no, like, she's a lovely, normal, like, professor person. But no, like, she came over to this country when she was 9. Like, her thank you so much. Sorry, I just got delivery. And I'm participating in capitalism.
That's
But
it.
you critique it. Curious. Anyway.
Yeah.
No, but like, the oligarchs have run that shit for like way longer than anyone wants to acknowledge. Like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
her dad, and it wasn't like her dad on paper. It was like her bio dad, and he was recognized and she was named that way, but he wasn't her dad on paper. But anyway, like, she'd go over there, she'd be like 16, and he'd be like, "Oh, happy birthday. Here's a washer."
Large appliance.
Hey,
Right. Here's a super dope refrigerator. And she's like, the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And he's like, oh, I got it from the best Germans. And she's like, but no, like, I'm in high school.
I didn't want the Germans to be offended that I didn't want to take their
Well,
fine refrigerator.
yeah.
Right. And it was just,
teenage girls don't love large appliances?
well,
I gotta write this
You
down,
know,
Buying
son of a
all the
bitch.
wrong gifts.
Oh fuck, dude! I
if
just
the
brought my kid
That
Christmas
motherfucker
gifts.
just
had given
explodes.
her an apartment to go with it,
Well, that's the
maybe then we'd
oligarch.
be talking.
That's the oligarch move, right? The oligarch move is parking all that messy, traceable liquid capital in some kind of physical object, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the
Right.
oligarch.
So I guess he wasn't dope enough to have real estate, or at least not enough real estate that he wanted to give some to like his 17-year-old daughter.
Well,
Right.
that's
I
more
don't know.
power than I got
Like,
to a
so
watch.
he fucked up.
That was like the move. Shit, I can't remember now, but it was during Trump. One of the Russian oligarchs passed off one of those expensive ass apartments in one of the Trump buildings to somebody who was just like, no, this is yours. I'm giving you this. It's like, okay. You guys are fucking money laundering with this property. But
Absolutely.
there was so much shit going on then. The one that I always wondered how it came out was one of their buddies ran off with a big pile of the inauguration party money that all these people had given that. I always kind of wondered how that one came out, but like, it's impossible to go back for any of this stuff now, right? Like, our supposed opposition party to the right wing in this country, the Democrats, like, put on a good show of wanting to prosecute people and hold people accountable and stuff. But they get a few
they
and they're
didn't.
happy with it. That's it.
No, it wasn't a good show. No,
Michael's
they
gonna
barely
be-
showed up.
Michael
They
Jordan
was
Peterson
drunk
was
when they
a
was
show
there.
not cancel the show.
They knocked over my fucking house plant being plastered.
Dude, that new Abby fucks with me so hard. I feel bad for the AI that processed that.
You think it had any dreams about its grandmother's pube comb?
It almost certainly did. It almost certainly had a dream of what does he say the how does he describe the pubis as
Oh
like
shit.
the way he says it is so fantastic. Like it it's one of these things where like you'll be reading an author sometimes and you'll think like that they just got really bad advice in like creative writing class or something where somebody was like, no, just create a memorable image. Boy, he sure did.
Oh yeah, he did. My grandma's pube comb made me itchy down there. Fucking moron.
I think he's done. I think we'll see who cancels who was his last big one. I think he's just going to kind of fade into obscurity now.
Up yours, woke moralist.
Yeah, up to the moralist. Yeah, I think that was the end of old Dr. Jordan Peterson.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm gonna have to catch this on the replay. After I get out of work and everything. You guys did commentary from our coterie of devoted listeners, for which we are so incredibly appreciative.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
kick ass!
just tried out my third media feed, pulling this through YouTube, and that works fantastically. Thank you.
Yeah, you're very
Oh yeah,
welcome.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
yeah. Sometimes if we got the right setup, like I'll hang out in the chat or whatever. But I ain't got the right setup tonight. In the car, on the phone.
yeah. No, I mean if Twitter, we're kind of backing up in case Twitter does kick the big one on Monday because like who knows? Daddy
Right.
Elon's been doing a lot of drinking.
On one hand, I love Twitter, but on the other hand, it'd be so funny. It'd be so funny.
It's
It
It'd
would be
be
worth
the
it, wouldn't
funniest
it?
shit. Be the funniest fucking shit that ever happened.
I think it's what I think is kind of funny about alcoholism is because like people always just kind of be like, oh look at that fucker, he's drunk again, right? How many people sober act like an alcoholic and we just pretend like oh there's kind of a dick, right? Elon's certainly doing it right now. Alcoholistic behavior, like the only from the theorist standpoint, right? The only alcohol related behavior alcoholics exhibit is the consumption of alcohol to arrive at the same point the rest of these assholes do all of the time. That's that depth of empathy shit. You know what I mean?
Good
So
point. It's much worse. Much worse to come off like you're hammered all the time.
yeah,
Like that guy just plowed through everything and everybody in his way. Like
Most substances, in my opinion, just kind of subtly turn you into the worst version of yourself that you could be.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
that's preaching to the choir there because we're seeing it
So,
live.
I mean, if you're already a shitty person, it's going to enhance it. But
If you're
in
already a
theory,
shitty person, what difference does it make if you smoke some crack?
right? And
Well, it could affect
if
rape.
you're a bodhisattva, like if you smoke a little crack, like maybe you'll put a little extra wiggle into your prayers, but like you're not going to do anything super fucked up.
Oh yeah, because you already were like basically ascetic, right? You already were like, tapped out on like most like cruelty that arises from human desires or whatever.
Yeah. I'll say this too. In terms of the alcoholic versus the social alcoholic, the person who's just a piece of shit all the time, right? Without drinking.
Yeah.
Right? The alcoholic has an opportunity to undergo a kind of catharsis and stop being shitty. They have an opportunity before them because they can quit the drinking. That's what's making them shitty. They can take steps to, or at the very least, unearth a new kind of shitty, right? But the point is they can transform. When you're like that all the time sober, what fucking hope is there? Your empathy, the muscles in your brain for empathy and care about yourself, about the world, it's not nihilism, right? Because clearly something is motivating you to act the way you're doing. You still have motivation. You're not just decayed in sloth.
Well, right. And
But
if you stop being a
whoa.
drunk, if your whole shtick was Oh, I'm a dick when I'm drinking, and you're drinking all the fucking time. If
Well,
you stop drinking, what fucking
But I'm
excuse do you
drinking
have? Like, you
all
don't.
week.
speaking of Trump, like that was one of those where I always kind of considered like, as long as I knew about that dude, I figured he was just a regular dude, asshole, rich guy or whatever. You know, probably had a drink every now and again. Then when he was running for president, he said that shit about, oh no, never drink, never do drugs. I was like, God damn.
Yeah.
Like, and that what you're talking about right now, that is the thought that was in my head. I was like, wow, he really sucks,
He
right?
he's like that all of the time. That's just him. That's the part that's fucking surreal, right? Like you're always getting Donald Trump. That's what the man's always like. It's
I don't
horrifying.
know, man. He be looking drugged out all the time.
The thought process there is that he uses the same kind of meth that Hitler did.
Hmm. The good stuff.
Yeah. He's
My
Very good.
I understood it as he was getting like bootleg, like Sudafed,
yeah.
basically. Like, so he's not railing meth, and he's not using Adderall. He's purchasing a quasi legal analog, and he's zooted to the gills all the fucking time on it.
Oh yeah, it's essentially speed, right? That's what he's on. The man doesn't sleep. Like the man doesn't sleep. He sniffs like a fiend. Those sinuses are always being cleared out. Like, yeah, you're right. He's on bootleg Sudafed. Hitler used something similar to that. That's why
Oh yeah.
I kind of
To
lumped
make
them
it
both
I was
together.
not aware.
deadly.
Oh yeah,
Weren't the last days in the bunker just one long amphetamine trip?
yes, man. My man was down in amphetamines. Oh boy. Again, welfare Sudafed.
I guess back then,
Sudafed. I guess I
I
say
guess
that.
back then, downers were downers and uppers were uppers, man. Back then, you were looking at either morphine or like straight up cocaine,
Yeah,
like the real shit. Like everything we have now is like so derivative compared to like if you're Hitler or hell, even one of the guys that was locked in combat with him from across the continent. If you're Churchill, and you're thinking, oh, I need to stay up or oh, I need to sleep, man, you had some options compared to what we got.
yeah, you do. Got some nasty motherfucking options.
Everybody at my work, uh, basically at some point gets an Adderall prescription, and then it does help them move up and get promoted. Like
Nice.
it's just so funny. Like it's the kind of thing where it's like everybody's acknowledged that it's just speed, um, and they know that it works, and they get it and use it and succeed at working way too much and being way too wired all the time about whatever the next like process function is in that place. Like, I don't know. I kind of thought like that would be a bad sign that more people would notice, right? Like, because if you're using it to just be generally functional, like day to day life, like that makes sense. Like, it's really helpful for a lot of people like that. But
No,
as
And
far as
it's
just like,
sad
no,
that you would waste it
no.
on working for your boss.
They just look at that prod, bro.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
By the way, welcome to chat, Michael Jordan Peterson, and of course the one, the only true horror.
Oh, yeah. That's
As I
like
say it before the show ends.
it just sucks, man. Like they got us out here until like we're probably out here another hour at least tonight. And even on Wednesdays, when I started doing the goofy ass space to make up for not being able to kick it with you guys every Friday, they're on my Wednesday now too. We started an hour late this previous Wednesday.
God, these fucking capitalists. Wish there was some kind of a theory or way to handle these people.
Time to break out the choppy boy.
I don't know, man. That's maybe it sounds complicated. Maybe we'll figure out what is to be done at some point, but right now I don't know, man. I can't off the top of my head, I just can't imagine what is to be done.
Oh,
All
yeah.
I know is I'm hungry.
Oh, are you? What
I am so hungry.
what could you eat?
I need feed me, Seymour. Feed me.
Dude, I watched that some bitch in fucking 4K the other night. It was so good.
Did you
Oh,
see
man.
the did you see the original ending?
Yes, yes, they've got that shit added in now. It's so
I
fucking
love
sweet.
it.
I really forgot how good.
Wait, there are different cuts of Little Shop of Horrors.
Yes,
Yeah.
dude. There's nothing ending.
You want spoilers or no spoilers?
No, I mean I've seen the stage show, so I know how it's
Oh, okay.
supposed to go.
Oh, okay.
But like they're fucking that shit up. That's not okay.
I don't
Well,
know.
no, people got so upset that it ended like that that they had to like redo it. They spent like millions of dollars.
Well, then people should like stop being so upset and like go see more like David Lynch movies.
That
Hell
guy,
yeah.
fun fact, Lynch is a reactionary piece of shit.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He
He ain't. Yeah.
rocks.
There's a lot of stuff he says that like I'm like, oh man, I understand why you would think that because you're you, but
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay.
Mighty
But
Morphin Nazi
there's the
time.
point though.
Like yeah, like clearly I don't agree with everything the fucker thinks.
sometimes
He,
when the
he does
real
not speak
man,
for me, but what I will tell you is that I enjoy the fuck out of the things he makes.
oh, all of it, yes, all of it, even Eraserhead and shit like that. Oh yes, I'm all about it.
Yes.
But it's one
Yes.
of these cases. It's one of these cases where it's a literal Ubermensch that says the Nietzsche shit, and then you're like, well, of course you think that because you're at the top of your game. You're one of the best at what you do.
Yeah,
So
you
of
kind of
course you
have
think
to.
right.
Right. And if the world only existed from your perspective, oh, you would be the expert.
Oh yeah, like well, if that's true, then like basically 99% of everybody sucks at making and watching movies.
That's also true.
Well, yeah, and yeah, no, legit, they do. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, like
Well, they drive out the artist.
Yeah.
I love watching me some Neil Breen, but I'm not gonna like twist myself into pretzels saying like he's good at making movies. He's fucking terrible. The movies are fucking terrible, but they're also enjoyable.
That's like Linklater. Like I don't really like a lot of stuff about the way those movies are put together. Like Days Confused, and he did the film version of Bogosian's place Suburbia. Like Richard Linklater, like I just love everything that's happening in the movies, but I'm always watching it and I'm like, ugh, ugh.
Yeah. It's it's
You
not
need
good,
a
folks.
shower.
We're not winning with it, folks. We're just not
Shower
winning
after.
with it. It's sad, but we're not winning with it. All right. Hey, thank you all for joining me as always. I'm Dan Cohen. I was joined tonight by the cast regulars of Jenk Engels, uh, Michael Jordan Peterson, and of course the True Horror. Ah, skirt, you're tagging in just a little too late. Next time,
That's cool though. It's cool though. We'll probably say a lot of
and
terrible shit. Cut the live feed.
cut the live feed.
It's time to get real.
Give me a few seconds. We can cut that live feed. But yeah, and of course
Hello,
our special
Fulbright
guest.
Scholar. Thank you for having me.
Yes, our special guest, the Rhodes Scholar Juniper Nest.
The incomparable Juniper Nest.
You know what? Just own it because they can't prove you didn't.
If you got a Twitter, check out at JuniperNest at twitter.com on Tuesday nights for that plant update.
Yeah.
That's the only reason that my houseplants stopped dying.
Oh, I don't do that shit in the winter. I'll probably we're on hiatus. That'll probably like restart maybe March.
Excellent, excellent.
Okay, and chat, I've not been ignoring you. We have just had a really, really big discussion here. H.R. Geiger telling Oprah she can't be a communist. All right, I'll dance around it. Let me dance around it. Let me mull on. Let me chew on that one for a week, and I'll bring it. Otherwise, y'all have a great night. Don't die. We love you. Bye.